Okay, I know this video is a little late, but I do not care. I'm sure a lot of you have probably seen the new Thor movie, and a lot of you probably already know that it's not good. Thor: Love and Thunder sucks ass. I'm honestly ashamed to admit it, but walking into the theater, I had the slightest voice in my head telling me that, hey, it's an MCU movie, it's gonna be good. Because for many years, that was the truth, you know? You would have movies about characters that you didn't really know about, and they all were pretty good movies, you know? They had a somewhat good plot.
What a story, Mark.
Good characters, good laughs, and good action, and they were well-rounded movies. And other than a few standouts, they generally left me leaving the theater feeling satisfied. But not anymore. The only real thing I enjoyed about watching this movie was that I watched it with my good friend Sarah, but as great as Sarah is, she cannot fix this movie. So let's talk about it while my thoughts are still somewhat fresh. Number 1, the plot, or the lack of it. Everything in this movie is stupid, but we're gonna talk about the plot first, because it might be the most stupid. Basically, Gore, which is the main villain played by the incredible actor who should not have dipped their golden career into this flaming bucket of shit. That actor was Christian Bale, and his character is really stupid. His daughter dies from dehydration in the desert, and then Gore walks like fucking 5 minutes to this little tree thing afterwards. And then the god that he worships is just chilling there. It's like his hangout spot. And basically he says how he's a follower of his and that his daughter died in his name or something. And the god is like, I don't give a fuck about you or my beliefs / followers. And Gore gets angry because his daughter died in the god's name and he doesn't care. First of all, how the fuck did he just find God? Like, he's just roaming the desert and he fucking rolled up on his god who's just chilling there. Like, what? That's like some Christian guy just walking down the street and seeing Jesus in the woods. Anyway, why anyone could just walk into God's crib and speak to him, like, it makes no sense to me. And the god, I forgot his name because he literally dies right away, doesn't have any questions as to how Gore found him either. But fuck it, we can't get upset over the beginning because we have like 2 more hours of the damn movie to get through. Gore has this sword that allows him to kill gods. I guess they just killed the god killer and then it's laying there and Gore gets angry because the god's an asshole and he does that. He kills the god and that should be the end of it, but it's not. Why? I have no fucking clue. I get why he killed his god for mocking him and his dead daughter. Like, full respect to that. That makes total sense. But why target all the other gods who have literally nothing to do with this? It makes no sense, especially at the end of the film where we learn this isn't even his plan, or kind of. We'll get to that later. And for those of you saying, oh, the sword is possessing him, it's making him want to kill the gods. Well, I call bullshit to that because becomes encased in the cloak of living shadows and has their strength and speed boosted to inhuman levels. It doesn't say anything about possessing people. Okay, so eventually Gore tracks down Thor at New Asgard, which is like a magic city on Earth. I don't know, this place is just fucking dumb. It's like a theme park for the MCU. One more thing before we get back to the plot of the movie. There's this one scene where they unveil an ice cream shop and it's called Infinity Cones, and this shit just completely pissed me off. Why the hell is there an ice cream shop about the Infinity Gauntlet? This literally makes you feel like you're in a theme park directed towards Marvel fans. Second of all, why the fuck would they make an ice cream shop based off of something that was so devastating? It killed like half the population of the entire fucking planet, the entire fucking universe. That would be like if in today's world they released a 9/11 edition of Jenga. It makes no sense. Like, what? I got offended for the people in the MCU myself because everyone seemed to think it was fine. And I know what you're saying, but Avery, they didn't die, they came back, remember? Yes, I do, asshole. But they still died for 5 years, and it's still so traumatic, but fuck it. Now they're using it to sell ice cream. Even though this shit happened like, what, a year or 2 ago? Also, how would anyone even know what the Infinity Gauntlet is? Nobody was at the Battle of Endgame, so how are they supposed to know what that even is? But anyway, back to Gore's shitty plot. He finds Thor and tries to kill him, but when he can't, he just kidnaps a ton of kids. Why, you might ask? Well, see, there's a bit of a pattern here. I have no fucking clue. I guess to make Thor track him. Oh, and now Jane is Thor in the movie. We find that Jane has cancer, and apparently Thor's once unwieldable hammer can now be held by anyone who is sick and wants to get better. Jane goes to New Asgard where she sees the broken hammer and forges it like I don't know. She's just a normal person, and not only can she lift Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, but she can fucking reforge a magic weapon of the gods because she doesn't feel well. Now, I know later in the movie they try to explain this by saying that Thor told the hammer to look after her, and this is where the movie also adds some bullshit plot line where Mjolnir and Stormbreaker are somewhat like conscious and have feelings and can take orders. I don't know, whatever. At this point, they just start making up shit till the movie ends. So I know you're thinking, well, Thor told the hammer to protect Jane, so it forges itself to do that. And here's where I'm going to bend over backwards for this shitty movie. Okay, so hammers have feelings. Fine. Thor can assign the hammer to protect those he cares about. Fine. But even with that logic in place, this still makes no sense because as we figure out, the more Jane uses a hammer, the weaker she gets and the less she can fight her cancer. So the hammer is just slowly killing her every time she uses it, making it irrelevant for it to be there in the first place. All it does is the opposite of what Thor told it to do. It makes no sense. Anyway, then we go to get an army of gods because we need gods to fight Gore, even though they kicked his ass last time. You see, this doesn't make any sense. Like, Gore literally lost the last fight. He ran away. He's a bitch. But Thor's like, there's no way we can beat him a second time. Like, bro, what? We can't use the townspeople because Gore's just too strong. But the gods don't want to help. Why? You have heard me say this before. No idea. They just don't care. Anyway, Thor kills Zeus, yada yada yada. We go to fight Gore. And you know what he does? Apparently, if you can't find an army of gods to fight for you, the next best option is a ton of kidnapped kids. What the fuck? Then, before he thought it could get any worse, oh, this movie is so good at that, he gives them the power of Thor, which leads us back to the first part of the plan. If Thor needed gods, which he clearly didn't, why didn't he just give the power of Thor to the adults who defended New Asgard? It makes zero sense. I don't know why he did this. Anyway, these characters just pull random shit out of their asses, and it leaves the viewer beyond confused. Then we learn that Gore needs Stormbreaker to open a portal to a Wishmaster so he can wish all the gods were dead. When was this the plan? First of all, if Gore was going to steal Stormbreaker and wish all the gods are dead, why waste all this time killing all these other gods when you could just wish them away? Probably because he only thought of this plan during the last 15 minutes of the movie. Then, Thor, who is supposed to be the dumbass of the MCU, says something smart. It's probably the only smart thing he's ever said. And it's probably the only time anyone does this in the entire movie. He's like, Gore, dumbass, why don't you just wish for your dead daughter to be alive again? Now, Gore is nearly dead after fighting Thor, but he's like, good idea. Why didn't I think of that? And the audience is like, yeah. Why didn't you think of that? He wishes for her back. And then Jane dies of cancer. Now we have even more questions. They also don't explain why Gore didn't just go ask Thor if he could use Stormbreaker to go wish for his daughter. Like, that would have been so easy. Thor would have helped him. He's a hero. If Gore came up to him and was like, hey, can you help me go to this place to get this wish to save my daughter? Thor, or literally fucking anybody, any superhero, would be like, yeah, sure. No one would be dead. Except Jane. That is the retarded plot of this movie. Number 2, the tone. The entire movie is just a joke. None of it is serious. Gore, who is the creepy ghost god killer, ends up joking with the kids, and he's trying to play like the Joker, completely killing any tension. He was badass when he first showed up. Like, he looked scary, but then he just, adds that goofy Marvel flair, and then it just all disappears. It also doesn't help that every single character tries to be the class clown. Korg, whatever his name is always saying funny lines after a scene ends. And Thor is always stupid and trying to make little kids laugh so hard that they shit their pants in the theater. And then Jane, who is a serious scientist, decides she's gonna act like a charismatic dumbass too. It's like being the only sober one in a group of friends after you went out for a night on the town. Everyone is just acting dumb and not really caring about anything while you're seeing how much longer the movie has until it's over. Now, you can have a lot of funny characters. And you know who does that very well? The Guardians of the Galaxy. The Guardians of the Galaxy were in this movie, and honestly, it was the funniest part in the entire movie. And they are really funny. And you know why? Because their personalities contrast with one another. Peter Quill is kind of dumb, but he's kind of a smartass. Rocket Raccoon is an extreme smartass, but he's also really over the top sometimes, which makes him make stupid decisions. And Drax is just kind of the dumb one.
Oh, dude. How long have you been standing there?
An hour.
An hour?
Are you serious?
I've mastered the ability of standing so incredibly still that I've become invisible to the eye. Watch.
You're eating a Zarg nut.
But my movement was so slow that it's imperceptible.
No.
I'm sure I'm invisible.
Hi, Drax.
And all three of them constantly go back and forth, and it makes for a very entertaining viewing experience. But in this movie, they're all the same. They're all just dumb, and it's supposed to be funny, but it gets really annoying after a while. Okay, you want Thor to be a dumbass? Fine. But Gore, or Korg, whatever the guy's name is, he can't also be a dumbass. You can't have too many dumbasses and then expect this plot to be somewhat serious. I mean, this movie is literally just 2 hours of them trying to make people laugh, and then they throw in this whole thing about cancer, and you're like, what? Like, am I supposed to feel bad? I mean, obviously I'm supposed to feel bad, but I'm not, because this whole movie's like a joke. And then Jane Foster, who was this serious scientist, as soon as she becomes a Thor, acts like a dumbass, because apparently anyone who becomes a Thor has to be stupid.
Need my hammer!
And it just makes no sense for her character. This movie is just full of dumbasses, and it sucks. None of the characters had really any motives either. Thor learns how to live and keep his heart open. Jane gets cancer and dies. Korg has gay sex in a pit of lava. Valkyrie loses a kidney. And Gore, well, we already know about him. He just makes absolutely no sense. And like I said before, Thor being a big joke is just not as funny as when there are more serious people, like Steve, around to balance things out. Number 3, the setting. I never liked the idea of God stuff. I mean, it's basically just, we are gods and no logic applies to us at all, really. It's like the movie was just making up shit. It doesn't feel grounded at all. Other properties are way better at this. For example, I don't hate the idea of gods. Death Note deals with 2 realms but perfectly integrates them into an environment where we feel familiar with, making the idea of a Shinigami more understandable and relatable, even though it is a completely made up thing. Sorry, I'm rewatching the series, that's why I picked it. Or even take Star Wars, a completely different environment and planets that we're on. There's just some substance like the environment that humans can relate to. And Thor, everything always seems so alien, and that makes it hard to focus and immerse yourself in. It's like those pictures on the internet where you can't make out one single thing in the image. It's like that, but a 3-hour movie, and it makes me lose interest. I also fucking hate the idea of because they have powers writing technique. The thing that is so unsatisfying is that we never know how Thor beats his opponents other than the fact that he has powers. For example, in The Dark Knight, the Joker's plan to win against Batman is to corrupt what once was a symbol of hope for Gotham into a cold-blooded killer. For Batman to win, he must take the fall for Harvey Dent's murders so Gotham can keep their faith in the good of Harvey. Those are the stakes. That is what Batman has to do and sacrifice to win. It makes sense. But in order for Thor to beat Gore, he just needs to use more power, which equates to him yelling and grunting louder and more lightning coming out. Like, there's no explanation or plan to defeating him. It's just the idea of power doing it. You can't elaborate on it, so it lacks a lot of substance, and you don't really feel like you won anything. This is similar in Rise of Skywalker, where Rey simply gets enough power by grabbing another lightsaber and just thrusting harder at Palpatine. Like, there's no explanation. It just happens. So yeah. Thor 4 is just a bunch of CGI, with no plot or good characters, and a boring fight to finish it off. These films just feel lazy, and have no real characters or stakes to them, and it makes me sad, because now all I hear is stuff like, these superhero movies suck, and all I can do is look at them and say, you're right. Because they're not wrong. It's sad because they didn't used to be this way, but when you only care about making money and not making a decent story to tell with decent characters, your shit's gonna suck. Not to mention they've made like 25 of these now. But anyway, those are just my thoughts on the movie. Let me know, what did you think? Did you like the movie? Did you love it? I hope not, but hey. At least the kids that were in the audience seemed to enjoy it, and I guess that's really all that matters at the end of the day. But I still absolutely hated it.